completely out of spec to where we were expecting it to be. And the bag in the middle is decent, but you can just see the inconsistencies within that press run. But the water bag, again, stays consistent throughout the whole run, and it hits our spec. And I've got a sample that, you can see here, maybe not very well, but just the inconsistencies, bag printed in water versus bag printed in solvent. Just a lot lighter, just not as good a quality. So we've moved half of our items already over from solvent to water, and I'm looking to move the remaining items over here over the next month or two. So there's a ton of capacity on their press, their water press, and we're just working with SGK to move those items over. And category maturity I do have is green. Now we do have some innovation within the space, which I'll talk about later, but I do feel like the maturity of the category is green. So I did want to talk briefly about our sourcing strategy going forward and the risk mitigation. So I'm currently working on multi-year contracts with our hostess suppliers and working to get them to 120-day net terms. They're currently at 30, and also working through a possible piece price reduction or rebate to gain some added value there. And then also looking at a PET bag RFP in calendar 2026, and within that, and I'll talk more about this in a few slides, we're looking at an alternate substrate to this PFAS-free paper, which is pretty exciting news. And then working through the ongoing BCP plan, just qualifying suppliers as backups in case anything happens with our incumbent suppliers at the moment. All right, so spend analytics. Do want to touch base on this here briefly. So spend in WADPO, Hostess has added about $11 million annually to the category. 3 out of our 5 suppliers in this space are currently at net 120. And again, I'm looking to move the 2 remaining suppliers, the 2 Hostess suppliers that are at net 30 to net 120 by the end of this fiscal year. Spend by location. So mail mix volume is pretty much evenly split between Decatur and Topeka. And really the same with donut volume, evenly split between Arkadelphia and Emporia. You will notice, though, that spend is under Edgerton. The reason for that is all of our raw materials go to Edgerton, and then they move to Emporia. So it's just an added link in the supply chain, extra costs to move those raw materials back and forth or the finished goods, whatever the case may be. And an interesting fact within the pet food space, we've noticed over the last several months, demand shifting from mid-sized bags, so your 13-pound, your 14-pound bags, over to the 3-pound bags. And really the main reason for that is, folks are on a budget and money doesn't go as far as it did, several years ago at the grocery store, even a year ago. So cutting costs where they can, and what that's doing is you might have to buy a small pet food bag more times during the month. But when you're on a weekly budget, that's, where you need to adjust and spend your money. So, and then top suppliers, out of the 5 suppliers that supply packaging in this space, 3 supply us, 3 suppliers supply us with mail mix, and 2 Hostess. And as you can see, another interesting fact, and we're continuing to see this climb, SOS pet bags or small bags make up a little more than 40% of the total spend. So, and again, seeing that continue to climb, and we're not expecting that to slow down really anytime soon. All right, so industry analysis, the market size is currently roughly about 19 billion, growing to about 30 billion in 2032, which is about a 5.5% growth rate. And some of the key drivers or growth drivers in that space include rising pet ownership, e-commerce, seasonals, LTOs, promotions. So all that impacting those growth drivers. And then some of the key drivers within the market dynamics. Again, we're seeing consumer demand shifting from the mid-sized pet bags to small bags, but we're actually seeing large bag consumer demand remaining relatively strong, and that's your 30-pound and up. So just to touch base on sustainability, there are a number of capabilities within the industry at this point in time: eco-friendly substrates, mono material films, PCR plastics. So a number of options at the moment. So we're really set up for when the time comes, but currently we do not source any bags that are recyclable, whether it be curbside or store drop off. The reason for that is it's very difficult to recycle multiple materials within the same structure. So think of our small bags; they have paper and polypropylene together. Well, at the recycle centers, they're concerned about contamination, equipment damage, and just the value of that material when it's combined with other materials isn't as valuable as it would be by itself. So you would actually have to peel apart the layers of the bag and drop them in different buckets to be able to recycle, even though the materials by themselves could be recycled. Again, when the materials are together, the bags can't be recycled. But several of our suppliers are committed to sustainability, and they do offer fully recyclable options, whether that be curbside or store drop-off. And the suppliers that don't are working on options. And in that space, it's more of the donut bags. A mono paper structure would not hold grease. The grease would flow through that, very easily. There are a number of films being worked on that could be developed into bags, but those are not ready yet, and they're going to be expensive. So not a great option yet within the donut space as far as sustainability goes. So supplier relationship management, just wanted to touch on a couple things here. One under relationship and the other under innovation. So relationship, the category as a whole is managed with transparency and clarity. And I view the suppliers in the space as an extension of JMS and as a partner. So we've had a number of issues we worked on through the past year. Viewing it that way and working with the suppliers that way seemed to really help us get to where we needed, solve that goal or that end game together a lot faster than it would if I was, just yelling at a supplier all day. So that approach has seemed to really work for me, and gotten good feedback from our suppliers that JMS is a great company to work with, and they really wish that all the customers that they worked with were like us. So took that as a compliment and continue to work that relationship piece that way. All right, so to innovation, the exciting piece here. So Polytex really currently supplies all of our large polywoven bags, and they are in the midst right now, and they have a bag developed, a small polywoven bag, which is this bag right here. So it really mirrors the paper bag in a number of ways. This is a bag that's been in the making for a few years now. It's got a flat bottom, so it's made to stand on the shelf. But again, for everything I mentioned earlier in the presentation, better tear resistance, stronger bag, has a cleaner look, easier to print on. I mean, there's just a number of benefits by going to this bag. The only difference is the current bag, the paper bag, to seal it, it's rolled at the top, folded over. This bag would be sealed across. So there is some potential capital that's needed at our Topeka and Decatur plants, but to seal the bag, it's using a band sealer to seal it across the top. So these bags actually we trialed these bags, and we are the first company to do that. So there's not another small polywoven bag out there at this point in time. Polytex is the first to take it to market. We trialed these bags in Topeka, and they ran very well. They ran just as good, if not better, than the paper bags have been running. So it's really a win-win. There's some savings to be had with these bags. Overall, again, just a better quality bag. In this space, it's really been dominated by paper and plastic being your high end. This gives you something right in the middle of that. Gives you that quality look, but not the price or what you would pay for a plastic bag. So touching on cost management, we realized about roughly $5 million in savings and cost avoidance over the last several years. And some current ideas that I'm working on and I have talked briefly about, but the pet bag bid in FY27, and within that, a potential move to the polywoven small bag. Again, there's some capital involved, but depending on what capital would be purchased, we could see a return in possibly a year or two. And then again, working on multi-year contracts with our hostess suppliers. We currently have net 120 terms verbally agreed upon within the contract, which creates about 2.6 million in working capital. And there's also a, working through a potential piece price or rebate within those contracts to gain some added value there. All right, just a couple of call outs within the SWOT. I did want to mention a weakness and a threat. So one of the weaknesses within the space is just the number of graphic changes that we go through. So we've had 2 Meow Mix NRO graphic changes this calendar year, and then obviously a hostess rebrand. Just creates opportunity for obsolescence, confusion with suppliers, confusion at the plants with the buyers. We really have to make sure everyone's working on the same page to get, what needs to be done and get out of it what you want. So, and then, talking through with 100 plus items, you're touching every one of those items. There's a pretty significant cost to do that. So it's not something that we're ever going to avoid, but, we continue as these graphic changes come up, continue to get better as we work through them. And then one of the real threats, and right now we're in a very good spot right now, but it's just that PFAS-free paper. It's just limited paper supplier capacity. So there are only a handful of paper vendors out there that supply with the PFAS-free paper. So there's always a potential threat. Again, we're at a good spot and working with backup suppliers there, but again, always a potential threat with capacity. And then the challenge with printing. And we've seen that with the solvent ink, better results with water, but there is that challenge there. You do have to have press operators that know what they're doing. And then finally, next steps. Again, so ongoing, just wanted to key the last bullet there. The push to have all of our SOS bags printed in water by the start of FY27. Again, we're about halfway there, making progress on the rest of those, and we're trying to move as quickly as possible there. And upcoming calendar year 2026, pet bag RFP, again, with the potential move from paper to poly in the small bags, and then working through those hostess multi-year contracts, and then continuing to complete that BCP plan. And then looking at 2026 and beyond, the potential move of SOS bags from paper to poly. Any questions?
Your paper to poly, is that a supplier change?
Yes, it would be a supplier change. Yeah, Polytex, so ProAmpac currently supports us with SOS bags in paper. Polytex, they're actually the only supplier that would be able to supply a poly small bag at this point in time, but they're a great supplier.
I may have missed it, but how long is your contract on the hostess side or for donuts?
It'll be a 3-year.
Okay.
We're working through a 2 to 3 year deal.
Was there any thought of trying to combine the volumes to get better value?
Yeah, there was, but the long-term strategy was to have a 2-supplier solution was the best fit for the business.
How do you manage the multiple plants with ordering tiers? So with packaging, everything's done by tiers. How does that work with having Topeka and Decatur pulling from the same supplier, or is that not happen?
Yeah, so specifically with the bags, I'll place the print orders. So I have an idea of what is on the production schedule. I'm looking out 12, 16 weeks. Obviously that can change, but then I place those print orders based on that, and then that gives the opportunity of a buyer at Topeka to place his release on what bags he needs for that time. But I make sure that we're always covered, that we have enough. And I try to I usually place those orders about 12 weeks out or 12 weeks in advance.
On your SWOT, I had to chuckle when I saw healthier lifestyles listed under threat, so I just
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There's a threat.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, but when you're, yeah. I think that's why I was like, I'm not even gonna touch on that one, because I think everyone knows.
I do have a couple questions. When was the change for the PFAS-free paper?
It was several years ago. I don't have the exact date, but I was gonna say, what, 2, 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago?
That's probably 4 years ago.
4 years.
She knows.
You're probably gonna give
Amy.
PTSD to Amy there.
How much are we spending on the, oh, I'm sorry, were you done?
No, I mean, I had one more, but I don't
Go,
want
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
For the 5 suppliers, I noticed we have 2 and 3 split between human and non-human, human and pet. Is there ever a possibility that like one supplier would do both, or they really just have different capabilities?
Different capabilities right now.
How much do we spend on artwork changes a year?
I don't know this exact number, but I've heard 3-4 grand an item. 5.
It all goes through SGK.
All goes through SGK though, yeah. Well, I mean, we're paying, company pays for it, but, and when you have 100 items or
Yeah, I would love to
more,
know that number.
yeah, it's,
Is there a way we can find that out?
We could get a rough estimate.
Yeah, I would love to know what that is.
yeah, because we were talking about moving from water or from solvent to water, and that's a, plate change. So designer was like, well, we don't have in our budget. Good thing is our supplier was willing to cover those costs because they wanted to make the move too, because it benefited them also. So, but yeah, I mean, it adds up quickly.
Moving from the SOS to polywoven bags, is that beneficial or going to be harmful to like PCR and recyclability?
So they're not recyclable. So, but either are the paper bags at this point in time. So they're not recyclable either. But as far as just looking at the bag alone, it's a better bag. There are cost savings there. I mean, overall, it's a win-win at this point in time. Now, this supplier too, Polytex, they do have fully recyclable options. So we get to that point, we need to transition, we can, but it'll be a big undertaking to do that when that time comes.
When we get donuts into that bag, you said there was a savings there?
Yeah, there is a savings, yeah, to move from paper to poly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about donuts? Is that an option?
Well,
Lose the window?
yeah, I mean, there'd be some major changes there, but something that we could definitely look into with R&D or TSO and see what potential options are there. But yeah, savings from move. It's that PFAS-free paper. It's just you're paying a premium price for it and not getting a premium product currently, in my opinion.
You have a feel for how much less, or how much less shrinkage, I think is the right term, we would have moving to the polywoven? How much less waste we would have from broken wasted product?
I don't, but I will say that this sample is not the end result. So we're able to cut about an inch off this bag. So this bag will be shorter than because of the way we can seal it. You don't have to fold it over. So about an inch less off the top of this bag.
Well, what I'm talking about is the amount of wasted finished goods from, forklifts going through the sides of bags or that sort of thing, because it is a stronger, better bag.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't have that.
But that would actually be take the sustainability number the other way.
Yeah, yeah. Which I will say, the large bags were in paper, and when those moved to poly, I've come from transportation and warehousing night and day. You look at the paper bags and they would split open. These bags, they're durable, they're tough. They're tough to tear. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much. Control. And I'll be right there.
jobs.
Go through all of my slides. I got. That way? Okay. Okay. Easier way to do it that way. Okay.
Okay, Hannah, they said you could start sharing if you want to and go through it that way.
Yes, yep.
Function and plant needs. So a majority of the facility shirts and pants are company provided, which is pictured in the middle, except for in Scottsville, where they utilize a smock model, which is pictured on the left. So the SBS locations are on a direct sale allotment program, which means we purchase the uniform outright and the employee is in charge of laundering on their own time. Recently, though, we launched a rental FR or fire resistant program for the maintenance team, which is pictured on the right and considered out of scope. The remaining SBAs are on a traditional rental program, meaning Cintas owns them, launders, and manages the uniforms. As I mentioned, FR is considered out of scope and is for any change because it has to be laundered and rented through a supplier to ensure the garment's flame-resistant properties are maintained through a specialized cleaning process to stay compliant with safety standards. So just a little background of what we are covering today. So through this strategy, the goal is to standardize company-issued uniforms across all SBAs, which will achieve cost savings through SKU reduction or bulk ordering and improve efficiencies by an easier to manage inventory. Additionally, we will cover compliance and food safety, cost control as mentioned, and operation efficiencies, as well as addressing mitigating hidden costs and loss. This category accounts for $4.7 million in annual spend, with 98% of spend under management with our preferred supplier, which is Cintas. As we dive deeper, we will cover market overview, spend, and priority and challenges. The market overview. Overall in the industry, there are three main approaches to consider. 40% of our industry peers go with the rental shirt pant model, which provides accountability and personalization for employees, but also has its own challenges, which is inventory discrepancies, garment loss, or damages. Another approach is the smock model, which again, Scottsville uses. This accounts for 40% that our peers are utilizing as well in the rental space. This model simplifies inventory management and utilization. However, overages in stock occur due to size guessing rather than individual fitting. And lastly, sitting at 20% of utilization is the direct sale model, which is the SBS sites. This allows personal fit while manages cost better. The challenges with this model, though, is there's a higher upfront cost and puts the responsibility of laundering and maintaining the uniform on the employee. Looking at the market, the uniform category was at 22.7 billion in 2024, while expecting to reach 38.7 billion by 2033. Key trends in the category include sustainability, barcode tracking, digital ordering platforms, and ergonomic designs. And key players include Cintas, which is who we use, and they control 23% of the market, followed by Aramark and Unifor sitting at 18%, and then the remaining players are on local and regional scales, accounting for much smaller market shares. All right, so on to Porter 5 forces. So Our supplier power is pretty low. The fabric production, it's relatively commoditized with local and global suppliers. Due to regulations, the compliant fabric reduces the flexibility in supplier change. Threat of new entry, moderate to low, even though the initial investment is not significant. Again, regulation adds additional barriers. As mentioned, we have 3 main suppliers in the area, and because of that, it hinders new entry, and new companies will lack the ability to compete on price and distribution. The threat of substitution is moderate, so in-house laundering is an option. However, it requires investment in sanitation, logistics, and additional employees. Disposable uniforms is an alternative solution. However, it works against our sustainability goals. And then our buyer power is pretty high. Numerous locations in the portfolio, we can leverage bulk discount through SKU reduction. Multiple established companies in this category, as mentioned previously, which allows availability of alternative solutions. And then the rivalries is pretty high. So again, three key players in the space. So market competition is they're competing not just on pricing of uniform, but also service. And so some can provide service-based competition by offering full service rental program, inventory tracking, and integrated systems. So as mentioned previously, we have 4.7 million in spend in the uniform category, but of that 94% or 4.4 million accounts for uniform and facility services. So to dive further into the 4.4 of spend, 2.6 is made up of rental uniforms, 615,000 is in direct sale, 565,000 is in facility services, which is rental rugs, mats, mops, brooms, etc. 490 is in taxes, fees, and miscellaneous, with the remaining 200,000 accounted for by first aid and safety. First aid being first aid cabinets, safety being safety shoes, stuff like that. So of the remaining 7% or 300,000, shoes and safety makes up the majority of the spend, sitting at 260,000. And then in regards to rental spend by location, Uncrustable sites make up about 47% of the spend, which is accounting for $950,000. Another key call out here is SBS sites are sitting at less than 1% in spend due to the newly established rental FR program. For the direct sales spend by location, Scottsville makes up the majority of legacy JMS spend, which legacy accounts for $282,000. Finally, until the new agreement is finalized with Cintas, the direct sale WADPO is at net 60, while WADPO for rental is at net 90. So business priorities and challenges. So food safety and hygiene compliance is a pretty high business needs. Non-compliant leads to fines, recalls, and possible facility shutdowns. Cross-contamination resulting in product recall. Deliverables, so uniform meets regulatory standards. This includes clean, sanitized garments, and proper laundering reduces the risk of cross-contamination. Operational efficiencies, and it's also high. So loss or damaged garments could lead to production delays, compliance failure, or breach in hygiene. With a simple to manage program, the SMOC model will assist in avoiding production delays and reduce employee downtime for missing or damaged garments. And then cost control and predictability is medium. So increased costs due to garment loss or replacement, meaning that if an employee damages, stains, forgets, loses, misplaces their uniforms, we're paying additional charges for that. And then lack of budget control if the uniform program remains reactive in our current rental model. So the SMOC model will provide transparent and predictable costs and minimize loss. So with that, the proposed future state is moving all SBAs to a SMOC rental program with direct sale shirt for under the SMOC, and then the employee would provide their own pant wear. This would also allow us to standardize color code based on the role. So for example, white would be for production, executed, which is consolidating the hostess agreement to legacy JMS, which will result in $47,000 in savings between uniform and facility services. So whether moving to the SMOC model or remaining on the current pant shirt model, Cintas has rolled out an online platform called MyCintas. With this online platform, the operations team can track their orders, access invoices, submit service tickets for issues, and pull usage reports. The key benefits of this platform is it increases the plant level visibility, reduces admin burden on the Smucker staff, and provides faster resolution on service issues. So this is some innovation that Cintas has come up with recently that we are working to get rolled out to all our facilities. And again, whether we stay with the rental pant shirt or the SMOC model, we would utilize this more. And then category next steps. So supplier management is ongoing. That is a team effort between operations and procurement. Standardize the Cintas contract. We plan to wrap that up here shortly, hopefully. Utilizing the MyCintas platform for rental management. We hope to have it completely rolled out and being used by Q1. And then quality alignment on uniform standardization. So basically getting a decision from QA and operations on whether the SMOC model is something we can move to by Q1. Any questions? Go for it. That's a good question. We do not have the statistics on, we'll say, loss for direct sale model. But for rental, we are looking anywhere between, I think it's 6% and 12%, averaging at 8% loss and replacement. But that's definitely something we can look into. Correct. Go for it. Yeah. Great question. So at the SBS sites, we have disposable or laundered aprons. So anything or anyone that is product facing raw product will have an apron on as an added barrier. And then anyone that is post packaging will just be in the uniform. We are. So if it is the direct sale model, we do not get the uniform back. It is purchased up front. Once their probation period is through, whatever that may be, it's not standardized as well. As far as the rental program, that's part of, I would say, our loss and damage issue is that sometimes an employee will be terminated or leave the company on the 1st of this month, and then they're not pulled out of the Cintas database for 30 days. Or even longer in some scenarios. So it goes back to the cost fluctuation and not knowing, are we paying for people that are actually here, or are we paying for people that are no longer with the company as well? So no, there's not, but that goes back to also the barcoding. So Cintas does use the barcode. There's barcodes on the back of the shirts and in the pants. But if we're delayed on getting the information out that that employee is no longer with us, Cintas is already laundering, last week's uniform for them. So they are behind at least a week typically. But if we're delayed or if there's, not communicated correctly, then it could be 30 days or more that we're still paying for them. Yeah, so on the rental, it's about $1,200. It accounted for about, I think, $800 savings per employee should we go to the SMOC model. So it's quite dramatically. So on the rental, the price, what makes it up? So not only do you have the shirt and the pant, but you also have to do, so we do 2 weeks plus a day. So if my work day is 5 days, I'll have 11 sets of uniforms, and then you pay weekly for all 11 sets. Okay. It's all in the verbiage. So for example, Columbus is a union facility on the hostess side. We do pay for it. It's again how it's verbalized, and maybe Rowdy can speak a little bit better to it. But from my understanding is that it's based on how we outline or word what we're covering. Mhm. No, that's a good point. Something we have not looked into, but we definitely would be open to it. With this mock model, the employee would provide their own jeans, so it would kind of give them a little bit of skin in the game. We would definitely be open to looking into that option. Yeah. So the goal would be for anyone in production for sure, sanitation, maintenance again is out of scope. Warehousing would be, I would say, out of scope as well, just because they're not handling product. So like Topeka, in their warehouse, they have company provided t-shirts, and then I believe employee provided jeans. And then in Edgerton, we have no company provided uniforms at all. So the only additional cost would be any sanitation just having rubber smocks, but that's minimal in comparison to our production headcount. Mhm. Correct. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, and that's something we can look into as well. It may be that, hey, it's, once you're in packaging, you can do just the t-shirt, no smock. But we were accounting for smock for everybody that would be in contact with the product. Mhm. All right. If there's no other questions, I will turn it back over to somebody. Okay.